Welcome to the Apartment Operators Podcast, where you can learn from experienced operators what it really means to be an apartment operator. No fluff, no sugarcoating, just the raw, unfiltered truth of the ups and downs of operating multifamily communities.
Welcome, everybody, to the Apartments Operator Podcast. Today we have Ed Modzel. Ed, welcome to the show.
Joseph, thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great.
Awesome. Ed, we usually start the show with letting our guests tell the audience who they are, how they got started, and where you are today. Like, what is the portfolio looking like today?
Yeah, sure. So I've had a long, strange trip, an interesting ride. After getting out of the Navy in 1979, I very quickly started getting into real estate at a young age. I wish I would have done it a little differently, of course, but the first property I got was a 5-family, and then I got smaller after that and did that for the next 35 years. I'd buy one property at a time, fix it up, rent it out. And so I did the burn method without the refinance part. I didn't do a lot of them. I did probably about 20 of them over 35 years.
Okay.
And so I had a W-2 job and raising my family, 3 kids, 2 jobs. I worked in television all my life. And then fast forward, okay, it was 7 years ago. I'm thinking about retirement. I'm about, let's see, what am I? Maybe 60 at that time. And I said, I'm not going to be able to retire, at least not in the United States. So I decided to leave my job without any real cash flow and get into real estate full time. So I did the flipping route, like a lot of people do, flipping houses, except here's my excuses. I live on Long Island, New York, not the greatest place. Prices are very high, holding costs is high, competition is high. So I did that for a year and a half, and I only flipped 5 houses. So I said, oh man, I'm a failure at this. I had a great job. I love my job in television. And here I am going to Home Depot 7 times a day, right? I found out at the REIA meetings about the multifamily, and I invested in 2 limited partnerships at the same time, back to back. And immediately I said, okay, I'm going to do this full time. And that was my transition. I never did another property in New York, and only in the southern states and about 8 states. And now I'm working on my 22nd and 23rd syndication. I've come a long way there. And I also do some coaching, both private and for a guru out there that has a big network. And that's my story.
Wow. So what does it look like today? What's your involvement in how many properties, which states? Roughly, we don't need the exact numbers.
Yeah. I'm in 8 states right now, but I'm going to reduce that because I got spread out too far and wide. I'm in 21 deals, right? I've done 21 deals, not in 21 deals. We sold 7 of them. So here's the count. Right now I have 1,324 units, assets under management. I sold 879, and I have 315 under contract. I was in 8 states, and I'm pulling back to just 3 states, the Carolinas and Georgia. I would have said Florida, but the insurance here is killing me in Florida. I'm sure similar in Texas is not so great.
It's killing everybody this year. We had operators we talked to. The minimum I heard of was a 25% increase in insurance cost. And we've had people with 50% increase. And I even heard about a guy that got hit 100% increase. And that is just absolutely insane. Your insurance doubles overnight.
Yeah.
So
not fun.
And we got hit about 35%. And I was shocked. I went out and I reached out because I know a lot of insurance agents, being a broker as well. And I called a few friends that are very well connected in the multifamily insurance world. And they all looked at my deal and said, I can't do any better. You're just better off staying with your current carrier because we can't find anything better right now.
Yeah.
Everybody got hit across the board. You're in 8 states. You're saying you're going to pull back. Sounds like a painful lesson over there. What's behind that?
Not really painful lesson. What I've done was I got involved with many different partnerships. There's some that I've done over and over, like one person I did 8 partnerships with, another about 4, and then a couple of one-offs. So nothing really terrible there. I've been pretty lucky there, but I'm a control freak. So I want to be more in control than I am on a few of the properties, especially when I bring in friends and family to invest in the deal. I want to have information at my fingertips and things like that. I'm an operator, a co-operator on all the deals, some more than others, if you will. Okay. I'm like on the biggest deal, I'm like 43% ownership down to maybe 5% ownership. But luckily, I'm a KP, that's a loan guarantor. I sign on the loan on most of the deals that I'm in. So that gives me a little extra clout there that I can have a little bit more say-so in the deals.
Once that you have more engagement, right? Are you guys self-managing anywhere? Are you third party everywhere? What's the kind of structure?
Yeah, it's a mix. And that's one of the reasons I'm pulling back to a smaller geographic area. Out of the 21 properties, 16 of them, we have in-house property management. Now, that's not me per se, that's my partner. The partner that I partnered with has an in-house property management. And I love the way those run. They run swimmingly. And other ones, I probably had to fire about 5 different property managers already. And that's a painful thing. It's not easy doing that. You don't want to wait too long to do that. And it takes a couple months really to recover from that. We have third party, we have in-house property management, and we have a third thing we like to call a hybrid. So we use a third party, but we have like a regional. It's like our asset management / regional. And that regional goes so far as to train the on-site manager and shows them the business plan and how to implement it. And so that's worked with us, for us, with one property manager lets us do that.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's a model I haven't heard of before.
Yeah, we invented it.
Maybe. Let's circle back to the partner a little bit later, but let's talk about the third party. You mentioned that you fired 5 of them already. We fired 2, so I share your pain. Let's talk about the process, right? So we'll start from the hire, then we'll talk about the monitoring, and then we'll talk about the fire when needed. So when you hire a property management company, a third party, what are you looking for? What kind of questions are you asking? What kind of metrics are you looking for? How do you pick a partner?
Yeah, we have believe it or not, we have a very long process. We'll get on the phone for 2 hours, not on the phone, but on a Zoom call with the partners and the manager. And we'll have a 2-hour conversation with them. And we have a list of, 90 questions, something like that. We have a lot of questions. It's best, and anybody listening, it's definitely best to get a property manager like you get anything else through referrals. It's best for me to ask you, Joseph, do you have any property managers? And you tell me, and I use one that you use. Chances are I'm going to have a good experience if you are, right? But you can't always do that. So the process is, I think it's very comprehensive, but what I find is management, and I don't mean that they're all bad. Okay, there's some good property managers out there, but the person you're talking to is a salesperson, and you're going to fall in love with them because that's the kind of person they are. That's their business. You feel real good about it. Some of the reasons are hidden costs, not doing things that they say they're going to do. These are some of the problems I had. The first property I got was in Atlanta. It was a 40 unit. And here I am at this point, I'm like 62. And this is after me doing the flipping. And now I'm in the multifamily. And I got to make this is my last chance. I got to make this a success. My wife and I actually moved down to the property. I wouldn't suggest anybody ever do that. We moved down to it, moved on the property, and we also hired a property manager. Okay. And they were there for 6 months, and we had to fire them because they were just like incompetent. And then we got another property manager, and they lasted 5 months, and we had to fire them. Similar reasons. And now I'm thinking, all right, I had to fire the first two property managers I ever had. I think it might be me. My wife and I were only going to go down there for 9 months, but it turned out 17 months. And we managed it for the last 6 months. By that time, we knew we were already selling the place. Our business plan was to do the renovations, then get a BOV, broker's opinion of value. And if it was good, we would sell or we would refinance. Okay. That happened to be some really great years the last 6 or 7 years. So things were going up like crazy. So we sold in 17 months. And we learned a lot about property management because we worked alongside them. In other words, I was sitting in the office doing other things while the property manager was doing their things. And I watched how they did stuff. And anyways, the most successful properties that we have are ones that we manage ourselves. And that's one of the things I'm going to be doing moving forward, probably in another year, between a year and 2 years. Me and my team, which is going to be 5 people, we're all moving down to our market from New York to North Carolina within the year. And the first thing we're going to be bringing in-house is going to be all the unit turns, from painting to turning the unit, flooring, and that gives you a lot of control right there. We have costs that especially on the smaller properties, it's really hard to keep an eye on that. And you're really at the mercy of whatever contractor that they have come in there or the property manager themselves. So that's the first thing we're going to do. And then we're going to do the in-house property management.
Yeah.
Have you done it?
I'm sorry.
Do you do any management?
We did. We unfortunately went through 2 property management that just did not do the job. And in February of 2020, we took over management, and then the world exploded.
Yeah.
If you asked me in May or June of 2020, I would have told you I picked the absolutely wrong time to start doing self-management. But hindsight, that's the only thing that saved us. That's the only way we could have survived COVID and the impact of COVID is by the fact that, just like you, I went down and I got on the property and I was on site every week, all week. And it took a big toll. But at the end of the day, nobody's going to care about your property as much as you do.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely.
And we found things that you look at and you go, it's just absolutely insane that these things are happening. And you're right. When you talk to the property management person, usually it's a sales guy or it's the owner of the company that somewhere along the way got disconnected with what happens on site. Right. And things that they would tell us, this is what we do and this is how we do it, which gets you to buy into this company, is things that are just not happening. And when you talk to them, when you start realizing that things are not happening the way they promised you, the surprise on their face is, what do you mean? That's how we do things. No, not really. That's not what happens in the field. That's not what your people are actually doing. And so nobody's going to be able to help you with what you do. And funny story, like the first few quarters after we took over and we started sending reports to Fannie Mae, I used to get like hysterical phone calls from the asset management at the lender. What's wrong? What do you mean what's wrong? your expenses dropped 35%. What's wrong? Are you deferring maintenance? No, I'm just not spending money on things that shouldn't be spent. And it's just a little example, right? I walk into one of the shops after we took over and I find a brand new box AC condenser. And it's a 3.5 ton AC condenser. But there's not a single AC on the entire property that is 3.5 ton.
Yeah.
Not even the office.
Yeah, it's 1.5, right? Or two.
So why did you order this? Why did we spend? This is like $1,000 compressor.
Yeah, that was a mistake.
Mistake. So why didn't somebody send it back? Nothing. Nobody had an answer. And so that's the kind of thing that you got to tighten up control, and you got to realize that nobody's going to tighten up control if it's not their money.
Yeah. Here's a good point, I think, for the listeners, perhaps, is that when you are looking at a property manager and you're talking with them before you hire them, you want to make sure that they buy into your business plan. Okay. Because if they don't, either your business plan is wrong or you need a new property manager. So you got to get in alignment there.
Yeah.
Very important.
The challenge is, and our audience, if they listen to our podcast, then they know that I keep repeating the same thing on that one, is that this industry has a really big problem, as we still haven't figured out a good way to compensate third-party managers. There's just no good model, which is why I'd say 96% of all the guests we had on our show, and we had operators from, 80, 90 units all the way up to tens of thousands of units. And they all, 96% of them said they switched to self-management at some point for the control.
Yeah.
Nobody says that property management is a profit center. It's more like a brain damage center, right?
Yeah.
But the control is what makes the difference.
Yeah. It's like laundry.
Yeah. And you look at it in a way of, we compensate them from the top end of things. They get a percentage of the gross income that they bring in. So let's say they get 4%. If they don't work hard enough and they don't collect $25,000 a year at a 5.6 cap rate, for us ownership, $25,000 a year in the NOI is $500,000 in value. But if you do the math at a 4%, $25,000 a year is $83 a month. As a business owner, I understand that they cannot invest more than 2 work hours of a person total. That's $83, 2 hours. They cannot invest that person to do all the hard work that's needed to really maximize every dollar. So we have a problem with that. So you say, okay, let's compensate them from the bottom side of things. We'll give them a piece of the NOI. All they have to do is defer maintenance to increase their NOI.
Yeah.
So you incentivize the wrong behavior here. So the only model that I can see working is if the property management has ownership in the property, which means it's in-house property management. I cannot see a clear path into compensating a third party and making it a viable business model for them to maximize profits.
Yeah. Yep.
That's really is the challenge, and I'm hearing you struggling with those as well. So what do you guys do to work with the property management in order to be as much in control as possible? You're not fully in control, but as much in control.
Yeah.
Are you guys meeting daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly?
Yeah. We have an asset okay, first off, we have an asset management meeting once a week, and that can last anywhere from 10 minutes to a half hour. So we instituted a certain amount of key performance indicators that we like to see each week. Everybody's, maybe you're familiar with them all. We have collections for the week, delinquencies, any evictions, what is the occupancy, what is the pre-leased occupancy. That means how many units do you have ready? You already got deposits, you got the lease signed, but they didn't move in yet. And various other things. Work orders, how many work orders are coming in. How long does it? Here's a big one here, and this has again to do with the property management as well. Is I'm a big stickler. I have a bunch of charts. I love charts, right? So every time a unit goes vacant, I put it on the chart and then I track it because I want to know how many days it takes. Now, some are going to take more than others. Maybe this is a totally in terrible condition. Maybe it's going to take 3 weeks. Maybe you have to order some cabinets and it may take even longer, but you track it. Okay, from the day that it's vacant, I ask the property manager, I want to know, okay, we have, I don't know, 6 vacant units. Okay, vacant unit number 1, it was vacant 2 days ago. Okay, when is it going to be rent ready? That's in the beginning, that was like pulling teeth, but now they know that I ask that every week. So, I want a date from them. Is it going to be this Friday? Is it going to be next Friday? Whatever it is, you got to think about it a little bit. So whatever that date is, I put it down. Okay. And then next week, when we have the meeting, we see how close they are. And I think after a while, they start giving me better dates. Okay, this is when it's going to be ready. Okay, how is the leasing going? What's the traffic look like? Are we priced right? Where are we advertising? Zillow, apartments.com? Are we getting enough leads? All of that. I've seen with property managers, hey, you could pay apartments.com $500 a month, but if you don't return the phone calls, you're throwing money out the window, right? You got to be able to answer the phone and call people back in a timely manner, which is another thing I want to institute when I get my team together down in North Carolina. That is having a central answering service where calls are coming in and those calls are getting answered, not just going to an answering machine, but he has to get back with them and so on and so forth. Anyways, those are the key metrics. We have a meeting every week. Like I said, our regional on those maybe 7 properties, she'll go down there once a month. I make it a point to visit my properties at least once a quarter. Sometimes I mix it up every other time. I'll come there announced, the next time I'll come unannounced. I just want to see what it's like. And you get a pretty good picture. If you go there and there's trash all over the place, that tells you something.
Have you ever used services like TaskRabbit or something like that to send somebody to just take pictures?
No. What is it? TaskRabbit?
Yeah, we had some out-of-state investors that would basically, it's expensive to go down to a property out of state. You can't go as often, right? Like you said, you go once a quarter. So they would send once every few weeks or once a month, they would send somebody, basically, it's the gig economy. It's like ordering Uber or DoorDash, right? You send somebody out there, they take pictures, you tell them what you want, they send you the picture back, you pay them like, I don't know, 10, 20 bucks. It's worth it because like you said, if it's piling up trash in the back and all that, then you can call the property and say, hey, what's going on? And then, well, how does he know? Is he around? Did he come to town? That's one way. Another way is, I don't know if you guys install security cameras on your properties, but if you do, then you can have a few extra ones to make sure you cover the back and the trash area as well.
Yeah.
This way you can pop up the phone, take a look, and hey, why is the back area full of mattresses?
Yep. That's something, I definitely recommend when you're looking at a property to put that in your CapEx budget is the camera system if you don't have one. Yeah. And they could be revenue generating. I like that on my first property. I'd sit there in the office. I'd go outside. I was out there picking up trash every day. I'm getting right down. I didn't care. So I'm picking up trash, and this is trash that people are just throwing there on the property. So I go back, look at the cameras, rewind it. There's the culprit. And I'd give them a $50 fine. And they say, then it started cleaning up after a while once they all knew that they were going to get fines on that.
Yep. Yeah, especially right before move out, we have to remind every time somebody's moving out, we have to remind them, if you're going to throw bulk trash outside the dumpsters, like furniture, mattress, stuff like that, then we're going to haul it off and charge you back. So if you don't want to get that charge back, don't throw the big bulk stuff next to the dumpster. Because otherwise we get fined by the city. Makes no
Yeah.
sense.
The other thing about the cameras, a way to, when I said revenue generating, especially if you're not on site, pets, okay? We charge pet fee, right? Like you should, but somehow there's always more pets than there is pet fees.
It's
So
my sister's dog.
yeah.
I'm just babysitting.
Yeah, if you happen to be looking at a camera and a dog and they're bringing him in, bringing him out, and then you look on the property management software, are they paying a pet fee? No. Okay, we charge them now.
I would do that when I was walking a property. When you walk, you'll see the animal at the window, the animal at the balcony or whatever. So I would just walk around as like a J6 dog, J5,
Yeah,
two
yeah.
cats, K1, and a peacock. Yeah, we've seen all that stuff. I think the weirdest one we saw was prairie dogs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's a whole different story. So yeah, so speaking of income, that kind of leads us to the next segment that we usually ask is we're all looking for value add, a property where we can come in and find ways to increase the value because we love the multipliers. We love the way that commercial real estate works is NOI divided by cap rate. So every dollar we add in income or dollar we reduce in expenses helps us with the NOI. So we'll circle back to expenses in a second, but let's talk about income for a second. So the standard is if the rents are not high enough, we can raise rents. If they don't charge RUBS or utilities back, we can charge utility backs. Those are pretty obvious. Give us like 2-3 ideas that are creative that you guys are doing to increase income. And then we'll circle back to expenses.
Yeah, sure. Most of the properties that I've done have been C-class properties. I'm starting to raise the bar on that a little bit, looking ahead towards the B side of things. But we do valet trash at one of the apartments. I think it's not much. It's $25 a month, something like that. That's where actually we don't even use the maintenance guy. We use the service and they come in and they pick up the trash and we make a few bucks on that. Another one is renter's insurance. We want to make sure that all our tenants have renter's insurance. And for good reason, like we had a fire at one and the person was killed, unfortunately. So the fire started like 4:00 in the morning on the stove. I don't know what, but they weren't really able to determine. But the unit on each side was also not really fire damage, but smoke damage. They had to pull the meters and that wound up being with the permits and the towns and all that. You think it's going to take 6 weeks, it takes 3 months, all that.
Yeah.
But had they had renter's insurance, which they didn't, that would have paid our deductible. We did not. We just paid it. It was, I think it came, they were small units, but it came to like about 120,000. We just paid it. So our insurance didn't go up. So yeah, insurance. What other ones?
Yeah, but a car run into the building more than once. So the insurance can help cover the building, but the insides, right, the furniture and all that if the tenant has insurance, that makes life a lot easier.
Yeah,
and then they can go claim against the car insurance. But in our case, one of them was a 16-year-old girl that did not have a driver license. They had insurance, but then long story short, thank you to the local police department that wrote whatever she made up on the spot, that there was a third driver that pushed her off, even though there was no evidence of another driver. But that insurance company looked and said, third driver, go find them. Horror stories of working with insurance companies. Yeah, so
we've done parking, preferred parking. Yeah, premium parking. I know down in Texas that would be good with the covered parking. We don't have any covered parking right now, but that's a good one. Yeah, that's about all I can think of right now.
Okay. So let's take a look
laundry.
at the other.
We have washer and dryer hookups and units. So we rent a washer and dryer for $49 and we make about 50% ROI on that.
That's great. We have washer dryer hookups and we have what we use the washer and dryer is not to make a little extra income. We make it as a call it a bonus, right? So our rents are right now, we have call it A- community, and the washer and dryer are included in the rent, but our rents are pretty high. For us, we don't like that they move their washer and dryer in and out because they scratch the floor, bang the trim and all that.
Yeah, good point.
And then we tell them, look, it's included in the rent. It's usually like $70 a month. This is our monthly special, and enjoy it. So they're happy. They're getting something. We're happy they don't damage the unit. And we have an agreement with a local supplier that when we need something, he just brings us a good looking used set. So it's not brand new. It doesn't cost us an arm and a leg. And then if we get warranty with that, and if they come in, they can fix something, they'll just fix it. Otherwise, they'll give us a new machine. So having that arrangement in place makes things easy.
Yeah. All right. I just thought of a couple other ones. One obviously is pet fee, but we also have a month fee if they don't want to sign a year lease. We'll do a 6-month fee, which is less than a month fee. Those are a couple other ones.
Okay. What do you guys do for reducing expenses? If you're coming into a property, any initiatives, any suggestions to reduce expenses?
Well, we know what expenses should be. We've done water conservation projects where we've changed low flow toilets. There's some controversy on there. The first property I did, I put the low flow toilets in there. The Niagara Stealth, what was that? 0.9 gallons per flush or something. And they weren't great. But what some people say, I haven't seen the problem, but they say when there's not enough water going down the lines, it doesn't get rid of everything. And so you could have problems where you have to snake out the lines. Low flow.
How old is the property usually?
Yeah. And if the lines are like bellied, they dip down a little bit. That's a problem in Texas and some areas where the ground settles there.
Yeah.
As far as reducing expenses, we take a look at the service contracts like the landscaping, and we know that if they're overcharging us or not. So we'll take a look at the contracts like that. Flooring, we haven't done any. We are doing a cable and internet contract. We're doing that right now on a 236 unit. And the impetus for that, the prime reason is it's 15 buildings and they're spread out and we don't have any cameras there. So we want to put cameras there, but we need Wi-Fi. So this is how we're going to do it. We're just going to provide everybody with Wi-Fi. It's like an $80 charge and you get Wi-Fi, internet, and television. So
yeah. Those are great when you are stabilized and you have high occupancy. Those are challenging when you get hit with occupancy.
Okay, makes sense.
Because the contract is you pay X dollars per unit times the number of units on the property, regardless if they're occupied or not occupied. So there's going to be a certain break-even point between occupancy and the monthly charge. So before you get into a contract like this, I would look at the numbers and figure out where's your breaking point. And if it's anywhere near the market or just under the market, a vacancy, then I wouldn't do that. But if it's 60% occupancy and the market is at 95, then you're pretty solid.
Yeah.
So it's kind of something to consider.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, same with laundry contracts. They want to do it for 7 or 10 years. And
yeah, from my experience, the laundry contracts, they're almost never paying out anything.
Yeah.
You get one big payment when you sign the contract, and then the next 10 years, you'll get nothing.
Yeah. If you read the fine print, the first $672 goes to them, and then you split 60-40.
Yep. And there's like a minimum daily and a minimum this and a minimum that. So they write a contract basically that means you're going to get this lump sum, and for the next 10 years, nobody's going to get a dime but us.
Yeah.
And then if your property is performing well for them, then you'll have great service. But if your property is not performing well as they thought it would, then getting service out of them is really hard.
Yes.
which
Yes.
impacts your property at the end of the day because your residents are not going to get service, but they don't care.
Yeah.
I had a run-in with, let's just say, the largest company in the business, and
We have two.
I
The
had
three
to,
initials.
yeah, yeah, and I went to Twitter and I found their CEO and the CEO of that
Oh,
company, and I hit them so hard on LinkedIn and Twitter until they had to pay attention to me. But trying to get the field supervisor or the local region to talk to you, good luck.
yeah.
Right. But once I got their COO and CEO entangled, I got
That's
service real quick.
that's a great idea. We were on one property, probably with the same company there. It took us like 3 months to we wanted this company to remove the machine so we could renovate our laundry room.
Yeah.
And then put them back, and we didn't want to move them because I didn't know if we were allowed to and everything. It took us like 3 months of like constant emailing, calling, and everything else.
Yeah. We had a big issue during COVID because they replaced the machines with the ones that have the rechargeable card. And the recharge machine was inside the office. But when COVID started, offices had to shut down. So we asked them to move it. It took weeks to get them to move it. Then they moved it into one of the laundry room. That thing got broken into, so now it was broken. And now we had to go for another month until we got them to fix the charging. It was a whole story with them.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay. Just the fun part of operating an apartment community. And it's not all rainbow and lollipops like we say in on our podcast. We tell the truth, no sugarcoating, no fluff. So how about a horror story or a funny story? Because we all have those. I was thinking we should all get together and write a book, like each one of us write a chapter of a horror story, and then we'll do another book for funny stories.
Yeah, that first property I went to and lived on, boy, I got a bunch of stories on that one. I don't know if they're worth telling here, but it was, this property was, I called it a C class. It was really probably a C minus or maybe even D class property. I evicted one tenant. He had done 28 years in prison for murder, but I evicted him for non-payment of rent. And then I had a guy that was running a crack dealership there in one of the apartments, and he was way at the back of the property, and I'd see cars come in day and night, and they would only stay there for 15 minutes. You know what it was, right? And I had the drug, I had the cell phone numbers of the top 4 police people in this, and it was in Atlanta there. And so if somebody drove in there at midnight and I have not like I'm watching the monitor, but I see the monitor there and I see somebody driving in real slow and going to the end there, I would get garbage out of the kitchen and then go to the dumpster like I was dumping my garbage, and I'd be flicking pictures of them and texting it to the drug, I forgot what he was called, the head of narcotics or whatever at the police.
Yeah.
But the funniest story is I had a guy working for me doing some painting and spackling, and he helped me turn units. And I am already selling the property by now. But anyways, one morning, this guy comes into the office. He's Dog the Bounty Hunter, if you ever saw that. And that's what this guy looks like. And he shows me his badge. And he says, "Do you know this guy?" I said, "Yeah, he works for me." He was a tenant, but he wasn't on the lease. His girlfriend was on the lease. And so what happened was my guy, he was involved in a murder like 27 years or something like that ago. And there were 3 people involved in the murder. It was at a convenience store. And there was one guy in the car, and then him and his buddy went inside, and I don't know what happened, but they shot and killed the owner. And my guy, I guess, turned state's evidence, so he only did 8 years. But this was a long time ago. He's been behaving himself since, but he skipped parole. And the guy that's in the prison for 27 years, he's about to get electrocuted. They're going to
execute.
And some of the head politicians says, where's this other guy? That because they found some new DNA evidence. And they said, find him. And they found him at my apartments. And you know how they found him? He was stealing the internet from the apartment below him. And he was on the internet on Facebook. And that's how they found him. And they asked me to go over there. He was waiting for two other people. They came in with all kinds of SWAT gear on, armor and guns and everything. They said, would you come over with me so we could take this guy in for questioning? When they took him in, I was there another 4 months. I never saw him again. And that's I don't know if that's a funny story, but
it's definitely a story. I remember one of the properties we took over, like the next day, there was SWAT on the property, like taking out one of the residents. And I'm looking at the on-site manager and I go, oh, who's that person? She looks it up and she goes, yeah, he hasn't paid rent in 3 months. So it's like, okay, can you give them the entire delinquency list? And he's like, while they're here, just take them all. So yeah, so they did us a favor. They took one that we needed to evict anyway.
oh, wow.
Ed, that was awesome. I want to be conscious of your time. One question we ask everybody at the end is, if you could go back in time to Ed that just got out of the Navy, right? What would you tell your younger self?
Oh boy, I wish I knew about multifamily back then. You think I would, but I didn't. What would I tell myself? I wish they had Rich Dad, Poor Dad, that book when I got started, because I lived my whole life the wrong way. I lived it, work a bunch of hours, work as much as you can, make as much as you can, and you'll do good. Now I'm trying to undo that teaching from my kids, because you don't want a business where you have to work in it. You want a business that pays you when you're sleeping.
Yep.
I guess I learned a lot of things that I wish I could go back and change. One is, the book was a slight edge. It had an effect on me. It's about doing things small scale, persistently, consistently, all the time. And before you know it, I mean, it might be 5 years, but you look back and it's, oh, wow, I can't believe I did that. Like me, I'm looking back now. I've only been doing this like a little over 5 years, and I'm going into my 23rd syndication because I was just persistent. I just kept doing it. Another thing I really learned was coming from the single family world, I'm going to do everything. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And I did not have the team spirit. It was like me against the world. Every property I do now is a team effort. And I would say probably I wish I got into more of that.
Gotcha. That's awesome. That's a great lesson. Ed, thank you so much. If our audience wants to reach out, maybe invest with you, maybe partner with you, maybe just brainstorm, how can they find you? And we'll make sure to put all those links in the show notes.
Oh, okay. The best way is to go to my website, because all the ways to get me are on there. That's GimmeShelterEquity.com. Gimme is spelled like the Rolling Stones song, Gime, Gimme Shelter. And it kind of goes with real estate.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll put that in the show notes as well. Ed, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
All right, Joseph. Thank you for having me on.
Awesome. And for you, the audience, if you want to hear more podcasts like this, please subscribe. Find us we have a YouTube channel. We are on iTunes, Teachers, and everywhere you can consume a podcast. Give us a review, 1 star, 5 star, whatever you feel we deserve. We'll appreciate it so much. And we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you for listening to our show. If you want to enjoy more episodes, please subscribe on iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, or SoundCloud. For questions or feedback, please visit our site at www.aptopr.com.